What is up, friends, and welcome into the Mercado Podcast. I am Mike Mercado, and I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Before we get on with the show, I want to remind you guys you can follow us everywhere in the universe. We're on Twitter at mmercado2333. Do us a huge favor and subscribe to us on YouTube at Mike Mercado2333. Also, we're on Instagram now, so follow me if that's what you do on Instagram. I don't know, we take pictures and stuff at Mike Mercado2333. It is Sunday, August 14th, 2016, and joining us for the second episode of the Mercado Podcast with our first guest ever, Nicole Mancha. You also know her as the Special Lady, is the first guest of the Mercado Podcast. I think I'm breaking some sort of rule that you're not supposed to merge two worlds together. But ladies and gentlemen, Nicole Mancha.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, so welcome in. So have you ever done anything like a podcast or radio before?
No, I've never done a podcast or radio before. It's mostly just like blogging.
Yeah. What have you blogged before?
Just a lot of my own kind of writing, poetry, short stories, fan fiction, things like that.
Very nice. Where can anybody find you anywhere? This is what you call plugs.
Yeah.
So go ahead and plug your stuff.
You can find me on WordPress. It's For the Love of Words, and that's also my Insta name. So
there you go. Nice. Very nice. All right. So as we get started with the show, we're going to start today. As I said, it's Sunday, I guess Sunday evening. We just finished up barbecuing. We're going to eat in just a little bit after we get done with this. So one thing that I wanted to do, though, is check what the box office is heading into Monday afternoon, Monday morning. And here you go. Let me look it up right now from Box Office Mojo. As of right now, it is looking like Suicide Squad is going to open up at number one again this weekend, making around $43 million. Sounds like a lot. The only problem is, though, is it dropped over 65% from its opening weekend. Opening up at number two for the first weekend is Sausage Party at $33 million. Again, this is a rated R movie from Seth Rogen. And I guess from what I was reading, I really didn't look too much into it. I'll look into it for the next podcast. But I believe for an animated rated R movie, it's the most money it's ever made in an opening weekend. So that's cool for it. I thought he'd make more, though, for sure. So $33 million. I don't know. Do you think that's a disappointment for all the hype?
no, I don't think it's a disappointment. I mean, it's an animated rated R movie, and a lot of people just in general don't seem to really be interested in. You have a very specific person that you're going to when you're going to like cartoons for adults, because think about it, like you have Archer and you have Rick and Morty, which it's a specific person that watches that. A lot of adults don't necessarily, so I think it's actually a pretty good turnout for a cartoon rated R movie.
See, I thought it was going to hit more like Deadpool-ish numbers, right around 60 million. But yeah, no, you make a good argument on that. And then also opening up this weekend at number three is Pete's Dragon, opening up at 21 million. I actually kind of am interested in seeing that movie. I want to see what others think. It looks like it's getting a decent score from critics around the interweb, Rotten Tomatoes, and some of the bloggers and whatnot. So interested to see how that plays out over the next few weeks. And rounding up the top five is Jason Bourne and Bad Moms. I actually have heard good things about Bad Moms. Really one of those movies that looks like a typical Melissa McCarthy movie, although it doesn't have Melissa McCarthy, so it's like no fault of their own that people are judging it. But good for them that it's stuck around to the top five. All right, Nicole. So outside of the top movies, we see that Suicide Squad is number one. And on the last podcast, actually it was an audio editorial I did about Suicide Squad. Also, when we reviewed the movie, we talked about, what exactly is the future of the DCEU, the cinematic universe. And it got me thinking, like, you're not necessarily a huge fanboy, sweaty nerd when it comes to these properties. You enjoy them, no doubt, but what I'm interested in is when you see a preview for some of these movies, what grabs your attention? So let's say something like Black Panther, something you've never heard of before, Civil War. What do you need to see in a trailer or in photos that would get you interested in going to see that movie? What kind of plot points for somebody like, let's say, Captain America, that you would have no interest in before the Marvel Universe came around?
Well, I think that, especially with Captain America, I'm not a Captain America fan, like, at all, under no circumstances. But I think that something that has a lot of action in the trailer, I have to see a lot going on. I am not a good person to sit still. Like, I can't sit still. I know I'm an adult, but I'm just not good at it. So I need a lot to be going on in a trailer for me to really be interested in seeing it, because something that looks like it's going to take a long time, or it's kind of got to drag out, is not going to be something that I'm going to want to sit down and see. There are very few movies that are actually like that I'm able to stay into, but a lot of that has to do with the background story of what's going on that keeps me drawn to it.
What did you think about Suicide Squad?
I love Suicide Squad. You and I disagreed on some points with that, but I actually loved Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I loved Will Smith's character. I thought that they were super strong, and I was actually really happy that I thought, played off of him really well, because Will Smith is such a big character in anything that he plays that sometimes I think that overshadows the actual story or what's going on in the plot line, and I thought she played off really well with him. And the other characters, I don't want to say supporting act because they weren't, but they didn't get as much screen time. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And I think they were able to kind of really group well together, and their chemistry was great.
Yeah, I think I said in my last podcast, or at least in the review for sure, that my biggest problem is that it's a good movie that has great moments, but also when it's bad, it's really bad. There's a lot of bad in it, though. That's the problem. And I agree with you, though. Like, the strong points of the movie are the actors. They're the because at the end of the day, we've all seen that ending. Spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't seen Suicide Squad. We've all seen the mindless drones, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as for somebody who's not who wasn't necessarily I'm gonna see it just because this character's in it now. When the universes first started, looking at it now, don't you think it's kind of dumb? Do you think it's dumb that they all end the same way? Like, do you feel like there's originality as somebody looking from the outside in? Although you had brothers, growing up, and some of these lores, but like some of the deeper, sweaty characters.
I think it's different going into it because I've always been a really big superhero fan, but not necessarily following the comic books. And I think that's where a really big difference comes in with people like you that are really into the comic books. So kind of that back darker storyline that maybe people like me didn't get, because what I watched was, Saturday cartoons and things that were on TV, things that were allowed to be on TV, things that your parents allowed you to watch. It's very different than the comic books because it goes down a darker alley. And I don't necessarily always like that it all kind of goes to the same mindless drones. That happens with everything, though. But like we were talking about before, like when I write, it's always coming off of something else. You're always going to be taking from something else. Is it unfortunate that that kind of is the hole that they fall into? Absolutely. But I think at times it works if you have a really strong story. I think with Suicide Squad, the characters were super strong. I don't think the story was super strong. You can have that ending, but make sure that you have a really strong plot line to, bring it to that point, because I feel like it just fell flat.
Do you have confidence going into then Wonder Woman and Justice League, from what the stuff that I've shown you and the stuff you've seen on the internet, and after what you saw from Suicide Squad, looking into the future, are you excited? Are you excited? For example, how excited are you for, let's say, Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange I'm actually really excited for. I was surprised because I thought it was just I honestly thought it was going to be terrible. And then when I started seeing the trailers coming out for it, it's a really different take on what I actually thought it was going to be. I didn't know a whole bunch about Doctor Strange. It's not like Harley Quinn and the Joker and,
it's definitely a different tier character, yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that I wasn't really into it until I started seeing the trailers and started seeing what it was more about, and that's kind of what brought me into it. I think that you needed stories like Suicide Squad and B vs. Us to kind of get into those other stories. You need somewhere to start from. So maybe they weren't the strongest, but if it brings us into some really great things, you can have one not so great thing, but 5 amazing things come from it. And it's like, if you wouldn't have done that first part, you wouldn't have gotten to the second part.
Okay, so let me give you the rundown from the nerd's perspective of it. I think what I really appreciate from your intake is you're coming from it from a little bit of a from the outside looking in the sense of you're a little bit more you're easily more of a critic of it, just because you're not clouded by so many years of reading the comics and cartoons and things like that. You got a love for it. You don't have an affinity for it,
right?
And for me, when I look at these type of movies, I look for engagement. I look for what's gonna keep me entertained, what's gonna develop this world, this universe, and on top of it, what's gonna change the game. I feel the Dark Knight trilogy is the best superhero combination, the best trilogy, just because it developed in each movie, except for probably the third one, but it changed how we looked at superhero movies. The Marvel Universe, each time they come out with a different movie, they try changing it up, whether it's Ant-Man being a heist movie, Doctor Strange being a little bit of a horror movie, you have Captain America being your political thriller, and so on and so forth. So when I look at it, I need something that changes, at least to me, that changes what I haven't seen before. And I've seen plenty of movies now where the main bad guy is just somebody and he has mindless drones and things like that. So maybe I'm just more critical of what I expect from these movies, especially since there's so much money going into how much to develop them and how long it takes. Like, you would think a movie like Suicide Squad would be guaranteed to be great with all that was going on, even before the criticism of Batman versus Superman. You would think, just because of how much money is going in, this is for any genre of movie, when you're spending that much money, and nobody wants to make a bad movie, but that you have to deliver. You have to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, you have to deliver, and I think you're right. We do have very different ideas on it, because I don't think I'm necessarily nearly as critical as you are. I go to movies for the enjoyment of the movie. I don't necessarily go looking for something. I want a movie that I thoroughly enjoy, that I think has a really great cast, and I hope for a really great plot line. But to be fair, like, there are movies that I absolutely loved because I just loved the story that I read before, and like the books, because I tend to read the books of a lot of movies that I see, and I love that, so it makes me fall in love with it. So I don't think I'm necessarily as critical. I think that it varies, it just kind of varies. I think everybody has their own emotional kind of ties to a movie, or emotional kind of feelings towards something. I think it's harder for people who are really in the universe and really have given so much time. It's like, if I read a book and then I see a movie, I'm like, they missed every single plot line that was going on. It's really disappointing. So I can understand how it'd be really disappointing. I think I look at it as more, did it entertain me? Yes. Yeah. Were the characters good? Yes. So overall, would I recommend the movie? Yeah, I would.
Right, and that's the thing. And I also believe expectations always, whether or not, because they're these stature of movies, I think expectations kind of change things. And you remember the hype heading into Batman versus Superman, and the minute the critics started coming out with it, it's my hype, just, you can see a day by day dropping. And it also shows that you have to have your own mind, you have to have going with your own clean slate, which is what I did for Suicide Squad, which is why I believe I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to, just because I went in with very tempered expectations at that point. But I was very excited to at least see that they got some things right, and I'm very excited for the future of the universe that they have established. Wonder Woman with Patty Jenkins as the director, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I'm very excited. So, I mean, before we're going to hit a break in just a few moments, what do you think? Everybody heard what I had to say about the DCU. What do you think? Are you excited for the future Flash movie, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Aquaman?
I'm super excited about all of it. I think that they did the best job choosing Aquaman. Aquaman was such a joke, and he really was. Like, you can't really say he wasn't, because everybody jokes about Aquaman. He's the one superhero everybody jokes about. And I think they did a really good job casting, because he's such a strong character.
Jason Momoa.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Khal Drogo.
Swoon. Stop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that was a great choice. I'm also really excited for everything that they kind of hinted to in like Suicide Squad, of future things that they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Because I loved certain characters so much that I really want to see them kind of play off of that. So yeah, I'm super excited about everything that's coming out.
Martha. All right, well, we're going to hit a quick break, and we're going to talk a little Olympics. And this morning when I was heading into work, into the studio, I heard one of the radio hosts say something that I thought was pretty interesting, that I've never really even thought of when it came to the Olympics. We'll talk about that next on the Mercado Podcast.
If you would like more from the show, follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mike Mercado2333, and listen to Outreach Radio Chicago with Mike Mercado Thursday nights at 10 p.m. on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago.
Thank you guys for keeping it tuned into the Mercado Podcast. I am Mike Mercado with my special guest host,
Nicole. Hi.
Nicole, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Insta at For the Love of Words.
Instagram, folks. For all the
Insta.
For the non-cool people.
Sorry, guys. He just got on.
Yeah, I did. Which you can find me at Mike Mercado 2333. Also on Twitter at Mercado 2333. Also, do us a huge favor. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Mike Mercado 2333. So I actually really like the Suicide Squad DC conversation we had on the first half of the show. But moving on to the other big news, other than the box office and something I really want to get your opinion on. Two things. One, are you watching the Rio Olympics?
Kind of. I'm not going to lie and say that I watch it consistently, but I am definitely an Instagram and Facebook person, so I see a lot of exactly. I see a lot of the highlights, which is great. You know me, like I work every weekend, so it's really hard to kind of catch up on stuff, but I definitely have been keeping on just seeing Simone Biles. Oh my gosh, I want to be her when I grow up, and I know she's like 10 years younger than me, but I want to be her when I grow up.
Okay, now, so for the limited amount of the Olympics you have watched, and I don't know how many you used to watch back in the day, but earlier on this morning, I heard the national host of the Sunday morning CBS radio affiliate here in Chicago, and I think it was the national CBS show, and he said that he can't watch the Olympics, or at least as paraphrasing, so don't kill him or me, that the Olympics are catered towards women, the way it's edited, the way it's presented to the viewers on NBC. And it's very interesting because in no other sport and this is what he said, in no other sport do you see the company, or at least the broadcast, go into, this is how he became the quarterback, let's talk to his parents right now, and then show the play, and then show the wide receiver, and so on and so forth. My argument towards that was the simple fact that, that's because you see these guys 365. A lot of these athletes, this is their one time every 4 years, maybe once in a lifetime, if they're ever lucky to hit that moment. So the production is completely different. It is a show. But do you feel saying something like it's catered towards women is accurate when it comes to Olympic presentation, Olympic viewership in general?
I think it's really funny that he said that, because the people that I know that have been like avidly following it are all men. Like, they're the ones, and a lot of them, granted, they were gymnasts. I knew a lot of high school gymnasts.
My phone fell.
And they're the ones who are really actively following it. I actually think that just reading some of the highlights and things that were going on, and there's been a lot of controversy going on, especially about how they're portraying women. I would totally disagree with that. When they were talking about the one woman who won the gold medal, they were like, oh, and the woman who won the gold medal, her husband's on the Bears, and it's like, or her fiance is on the Bears, and it's like, whoa, it's not about him. We don't care about him right now. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a Bears fan, from Chicago, but it's not about him right now. Let her have her moment, opposed to focusing on him. We'll watch him in a few weeks.
So you don't think it's accurate that NBC is editing or doing interviews or setting it up in the sense of a show for women more than men?
I mean, I think that you can look at it however you want to look at it. I think everything can be twisted to be in that. I think what they're doing right now is trying to give these athletes a little bit of time to shine. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't know why it has to be that, well, we're going to give them a little time to shine, because they deserve this. They have been working hard their entire lives to get to this moment. But we're just going to show this because it's catering to women. Like, when you put it like that, I feel like it kind of sounds stupid. That's
very interesting. When I heard it this morning, it's 4:30 in the morning, and I'm hearing this, and I'm like, man, of course. But it's a man saying it. Like, that's what bothers me about it. It's like it's a guy saying it to other dudes. All right, guys, before we head out, I want to talk about one last thing. So on the last podcast, I talked about whether or not you hit a certain age where video games, you're too old for them. And I thought about it a little bit more, and I realized that maybe some of it is boredom and the quality of the content that I have played with and I've at least been exposed to hasn't been the greatest. But from a woman's perspective, who has who's grown up with older brothers and a younger brother, and who yourself when we first started dating brought Super Mario World over, so you know a little bit about something. Do you feel there's a certain age where people, and it's not a boy or a girl thing, is there a certain age where you think people stop enjoying an entertainment like that? Like, is it natural, or is it forced, or is it something that doesn't go away? I compare it to toys, but is that even a toy nowadays? Like, is an Xbox a toy?
For the record, I just need to put this out there. I crushed him at Super Mario.
I don't remember that happening. Please answer the question, Nicole. Get your own podcast.
I think that a lot of it is nostalgia. For me personally, I've never been a huge video gamer, but the one thing I do still play is 64 and Super Nintendo, because those are the two game systems that I actually really used and really enjoyed, and I still find a lot of entertainment from. And depending on what I'm playing, if it's Donkey Kong, I could be playing for 6 or 7 hours and not really care about anything. A lot of these new games, no, I think that they don't really keep my attention, and that's why, you know, if you're playing, I'm like, whatever, I don't really care about this. I don't think you necessarily grow out of it. I think that certain things just bring back nostalgia for you.
Well, but this is what bothers me, though. Video games are art. Mm-hmm. They're an art. They're just as much of an art as anything you'll see at a museum. The amount of work that it takes to create this thing, and that only a select handful of the world's people create the quality that, like a Grand Theft Auto. Say all you want the controversy of it, but the quality that is in that game is as much artistic value than anything else. And we don't value it the same. And that's the kind of the confusion I have. Sometimes you feel guilty for playing a video game, but why should I feel guilty? Why is it okay for me and I'm not picking on Kevin James, but why is it more valuable of my time to watch King of Queens than it is to play, let's say, a awesome Super Mario game that came out last year that took 5 years and there's a lot of heart and grind in it?
I think that a lot of it has to do with what we had talked about before, where video games still haven't brought out necessarily that emotion. Yeah,
has a video game been able to make you cry? I think video games have come close. Like I'm sure,
they've come close.
I'm sure there's a video game out there that could make either one of us cry.
But I think that's why it gets maybe the back burner. It's like the redheaded stepchild of the entertainment. It's, you know, when you're watching a show or you're watching a movie, it's something you can engage in with another person and you can feel that emotion with. A lot of times, yeah, you can play a game with another person. Besides getting pissed off, a lot of times you're not getting that emotional connection.
Ooh, I might disagree with that.
I know you might disagree, but like for most people, and I think for a lot, you know what I mean?
Sure,
I'm not saying,
sure.
I'm saying I understand a lot of people get mad and like get pissed off, and certain things will, you know, bring a tear to your eye. But for the most part, it's not like we're going to sit down and play Mario and I'm going to start crying because, you know, we lost Princess Peach again.
Sure, yeah.
Because she's a disaster.
Yeah. But there's certain games that, when we were playing Wolf Among Us, that have the moments, like, that have the quality of writing on top of the artistic and then the engineering. But the writing in some of these video games is phenomenal.
Oh, for sure. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Like, I completely agree with you. But I didn't watch it and, like, sorry for whoever's played these games, spoilers, but when Snow White gets her head chopped.
Well, in those games, there's
multiple plot lines. But the point is, if you go the route we did,
yeah.
She's gone.
Yeah.
She kicks the bucket.
What about Limbo?
Which one was Limbo?
The one where you're the little boy and you're walking around, like.
Right, and I understand that, but here's the thing. I'm not watching those and crying when he gets eaten or crying when something happens. If I'm reading a book, if I'm reading a book and someone dies in the book, I will legitimately be crying.
What's the difference, though? And legitimate question, what's the difference?
I don't know. I guess because you can see it and you know it's fake, opposed to when you're reading and when you're in that world.
But I also feel like you're interactive in the video game. Like, if it does a good enough job where it makes you feel like there's consequences to your actions. Like, even if you get a restart, but the idea that everything you do does feel like it means something,
but
that's a great quality.
Right, but that's where we've just kind of started going down.
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, I would say something like you saw me play the Super Nintendo A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And, like, that's enthralling. I mean, I know it's at least I think it's the greatest Zelda game other than Ocarina of Time. Not Ocarina of Time. Like, I feel those kind of things are just as important as the being in downtown.
You know what I think it is, for me anyways, is that when you're playing a video game, that's somebody else's creative dream and creative mind. When you're reading a book or you're watching a movie, yes, it's someone's creative mind, But because there's people that you can link to and understand what they're going through, when you see someone who loses a parent or a family member, the first thing you think of is your parent or your family member. And it brings that emotional link that you wouldn't necessarily get from playing a game that is so out of this world and so far from reach that really makes you have that connection to. Because if someone like dies in a video game, right? Is the first thing you think, oh my God, that could have been my best friend. If you're watching a movie and their best friend dies, the first thing you think about, why that connection is there, I don't know.
See, I think that's valid, but I can also say the same thing for like a game like The Last of Us. I've never played The Last of Us, but I've seen all the YouTube playthroughs and obviously all the shows that I like watching when it comes to video game content. It's obviously one of the greatest games, and there's a high emotion in that game, and we might need to check that one out when I buy myself a PlayStation 4, which she don't know about yet, but I'm getting. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I feel like because I'm exposed more to it that I see those type of level games. But very interesting to hear your perspective of it's where it stands in the entertainment block. Because I think for the longest time it was looked like as a toy. And I don't think you can look at it that way. It has taken over the cable box.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I don't think it's a toy. I think that it's getting to that point where we've talked about of, hey, you know, we're getting that emotional link. I just don't think we're there yet. I think once that happens, it'll be a game changer for sure. Like, for sure a game changer. But for right now...
Pun intended.
Haha. But anyways, I think that it's still kind of that... the redheaded step sibling.
I think the stigma's there. I don't think that is I don't think that's as true as it used to be, though. Yeah. In my personal opinion.
No, I can see that. I just, like I said, a lot of it's just going to be getting out of that mindset. And you're going to have to make a really big push in a really good direction to get it out of that kind of thinking. Does that make sense?
No,
like right now
sure.
we all kind of have that idea of what a video game is and like how we relate to it or don't relate to it. And I think that changing that is going to it's going to be a really big move that someone's going to have to take. It's going to have that emotional connection. And when that happens, for sure it'll be a game changer.
What's your favorite video game?
My favorite video game is Donkey Kong.
Wait, which Donkey Kong?
The one from, oh my gosh, I can't remember it right now. I used to have it too, and I lost it.
Donkey Kong Country?
Yes.
Which one, though? The one where it's Donkey and Diddy, or Diddy and the girl?
No, that's a joke.
No, that's the best one. Donkey
and Diddy. That one's my favorite.
So part one.
Yeah,
part two is better.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
And especially when he's jumping on that little mine
shaft.
They do that all my God.
All right, you know what? We're going to argue about this. All right, before I let you go, we're going to do some type of bet or we're going to do some type of competition because that's how I want to end each show now is with whoever guest I have, we're going to do some form of betting or gambling or something. I don't care. Go ahead and find me. Her father is a chief, so I'll be okay. All right, so opening this weekend, we have a few movies. Let me just make sure I get the dates. All right. So opening up this weekend, which is August 19th, you have Kubo and the Two Strings, Ben-Hur, War Dogs, Moors from America, Lo and Behold, Revisers of the Connected World, whatever. Kings, I'm sure. Anyway, so the main ones have came out, okay? Mm-hmm. Give me the top 3 movies of this coming up week on the next podcast. I'm just going to name them off for you, okay?
Okay.
So
I think War Dogs is going to be one, just for the record.
So War Dogs 1.
Yep. I think.
Don't forget you had Suicide Squad, which is out right now. Sausage Party, which is out right now.
I think Sausage Party could have done better and it didn't. I don't think it'll do better this week than it did last week. So I think War Dogs will still be 1. I think it'll be Suicide.
Write it down.
Okay.
All right, she's going to write it down right now.
He needs to win some, folks.
From number 1 down. Okay. So opening this weekend, the top movies are War Dogs, Ben-Hur, and Kubo and the Two Strings. Actually looks kind of dope. I want to see that.
Have fun.
You just don't like art.
Oh, whatever. Okay, so mine is War Dogs, Suicide Squad, and Sausage Party.
That's
okay.
your top 3?
Yeah.
You want to finish up the top 5 for tiebreakers?
Sure. I think Kubo will be on there. Because I think that's going to attract a lot of anime-like anime people, not just kids. And I think that's always a really big one, maybe just from working at a lot of those conventions and I see how many people come out.
Yeah.
My third one, my fifth one, I have no clue.
Okay, I'll make mine, and then you can see if you get yours.
Okay.
All right, at 1, I'm going to go with... You know what, 1, I'll go Suicide Squad. I think they'll do number 1 more time. I have Sausage Party 2. War Dogs 3. No, you know what? I'll go Pete the Dragon.
Oh, that's right.
3.
Out.
I'll go War Dogs 4. And Kobo 5.
Okay, wait. I want to switch.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm just going to switch Kubo and Pete the Dragon.
Okay, so
Kubo's still going to be my fifth one because I think it's still going to be in the running. But Pete, I can see being number 4.
All right, so go ahead. Give me the list.
So it's going to be War Dogs, Suicide Squad, Sausage Party, Pete the Dragon, and then Kubo.
Okay.
That's my...
And I have Suicide Squad, Sausage Party, Pete the Dragon.
Kubo.
No, War Dogs, and Kubo.
All right.
All right, very cool. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Mercado Podcast, episode number 2. I can't believe we're actually doing this. I'm very excited. Hopefully you guys continue to stay on this ride. We're doing some awesome stuff that we have coming for the Mercado Top 10, audio editorial, so many other stuff on Outreach Radio Chicago and the interviews that we are working on. Also, here on the Mercado Podcast, we had the awesome guest of Nicole Mancha, but we're also going to have some other really cool special guest hosts as the podcast continues on. Nicole, where can the awesome people find you?
You can find me For the Love of Words on Insta as well as my WordPress blog.
Insta. And I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. You can also find me on the Insta at MikeMercado2333. Also, guys, do me a huge favor. Go to YouTube and subscribe to us at Mike Mercado 2333. I promise we have a lot of really cool stuff. Nicole, you've done it, your first podcast. What'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. And for the record, guys, we did have an additional guest. Our dog Mowgli was here for the most part. He actually got really tired of us and left.
Oh yeah, you know what? I have not heard from him for a little while.
He was watching us for a while.
How nervous were you entering the podcast? Like, what did you think? Like, you're not a shy person in general, but what did you think about doing the podcast?
I was super nervous. I've never done anything like this, so I'm not great at public speaking.
No,
and even though I'm not technically in front of anybody right now except for you, it's you know that other people are going to hear it, so it's one of those
rush,
things.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's great.
It's
I love it.
Now you get it a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
Now I know you talk to yourself all the time.
All the time. I always talk about. One last time, where can they find you?
For the Love of Words on Insta and on my WordPress blog. I'm
at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Outreach Radio Chicago. Also on YouTube, please do me a favor, subscribe to me at Mike Mercado2333. I'm also on Insta at Mike Mercado2333. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Mercado Podcast. Have a good one, guys.
If you would like more from the show, follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mike Mercado2333. And listen to Outreach Radio Chicago with Mike Mercado Thursday nights at 10 p.m. on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago.